Welcome back to the Adam Kramer Show, where we ask, analyze, and argue about the hottest pro-life topics. Today, I'm here with a very special guest, Sam Byrne. Sam Byrne, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm great, actually, yeah. But looking forward to coming on.
Yes, I've been looking forward to having you on. So, as many of you should know, if you're a follower of the Great Life Teens movement, Sam has his own show. He's got two of them, actually, the Sam Byrne Show and Recap. So Recap is a shorter length show that he does every Friday, I believe, or is it every day now?
Monday to Thursday.
Monday to Thursday. Okay. So Monday to Thursday, he'll be doing Recap on the Instagram page for Great Life Teens. And then your show comes out weekly, right? Once a week.
Yeah, every Friday.
The Sam Byrne Show every Friday. It's very exciting. You're very knowledgeable about all these things. And
Thank you.
It's a very good way of presenting yourself. So I'm very excited to have a conversation. So let's start off by, so tell me a little bit about why you're pro-life.
Right. So I started getting interested in politics right around the 2016 election, as I'm sure a lot of people did.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really when I started sort of doing my own research rather than just sort of listening to the news or prevailing viewpoints or whatever. So in 2017, Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, there's two countries in the island, that's another story. The Republic, our Parliament, which is basically the Congress, moved to revoke what was then the Eighth Amendment to our Constitution, which granted equal rights to the unborn. And so they had a referendum to determine the legality of abortion, and 66% of the voters voted to repeal the Eighth Amendment and make abortion legal. Mm-hmm. So in that process, I started doing research, as you tend to do on this. I never called myself pro-choice. Maybe I would have been like, oh, well, I don't necessarily approve of abortion, but, it's not my place to say or whatever. And, you covered that in another episode of the show. Mm-hmm. But the pro-choice arguments, they weren't making sense to me. So I was looking at them like, well, how is it a baby sometimes, but then it's not another time? So then I started doing research into the pro-life arguments. And I stumbled upon a video. It was a clip from a congressional hearing by Dr. Anthony Levatino. I'm sure most of the people watching this have seen it. And he describes in depth the process that the second trimester abortion entails. And it was genuinely one of the most harrowing things I had ever seen in my life. Just the description of it. And right. it was... And as Dr. Levatino said, it wasn't to gross people out. That wasn't why he was describing it. He was describing because this is the reality we live in. This is how an abortion is conducted. It's graphic, but so that's when I started looking into pro-life arguments. Start looking at pro-life philosophers, and then the politics really kicked into high gear and sort of start doing commentary and came to you guys and stuff like that.
Right. Well, that's awesome to hear. So, as many people know, I've been pro-life, raised Catholic. And so, it's been something that I've grown up with, but I came to a point where I needed to accept it for myself. And, that's when I started, I was right around high school age when I was looking through the facts, and not only what my faith believes, what I believe in the Catholic faith, but also, scientific fact,
right,
that these children are alive from conception to natural death.
Yeah, I agree with you there, but it's never been a religious thing for me. I really only sort of converted back to Christianity in the last 3 years or so. So it was never a religious thing for me. It was really always a moral thing. Right. And sort of the point I realized that I needed to sort of stand up and make my voice heard was I thought to myself one day, you're going to get cancelled in this world for anything. It's going to happen eventually. Everyone's going to get cancelled. So you might as well do it while taking a stand for something. And that's when I decided that, maybe I should start speaking up. Maybe I should start doing, debating online. But I don't really like to get into comment wars or anything like that. But, start discussing, start debating and researching,
Yeah, that's very interesting. I think everybody we've had so far has been, they've raised it, but they've been raised this way, in a faith. But it's very inspiring to hear that you've chosen this for yourself. It's amazing. And so you're 16. You've been doing this for how long? How long have you been doing internet commentary?
I started in, it would have been the first impeachment. You have to clarify now. The first,
Yeah, you do.
so that would have been halfway through 2019. You know, I was doing sort of debating and stuff before that, but 2019 was when I sort of started my own show, and then that took quite a long hiatus, and then I just stopped, and then got in contact with you guys in January, and then started doing recap not long after that.
Yeah, and I think it's going great. I mean, you're doing amazing, and you know, it's cool to see that like you're so involved with everything going on over on this side of the Atlantic. You know,
yeah, it's what 5,000 miles or something.
I think
like that.
so.
Something crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I mean, like just doing this for you know,
yeah,
6 hours, 7 hours apart. So let's talk about the topic you've chosen for today. So tell me, what have you chosen to talk about for
right
today?
So I chose to talk about sort of the normalization of abortion in our society, and I mean, you know, it was sort of seen as a sort of necessary evil. I know Maya talks about this a lot, where she said, you know, it wasn't a sort of general consensus thing, right? It was people going, oh, well, you know, I'm not pro-choice, but I'm personally pro-life, but you know, you can be pro-choice or whatever. But now it's sort of shifted from what was a necessary evil per se in their eyes to now a sort of rite of passage for the pro-abortion people and the hardcore progressives, and it's frightening, quite frankly.
Yes, it is. And like the way we've seen it go from, you know, a court trial to, you know, just a decision that could be done under the table. You know, you see all these videos that Live Action gets from like undercover people, and like there's barely anything you have to give them, any certification for your age, anything like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's very easy to get an abortion nowadays, and you know, it wasn't always like that.
No, it certainly wasn't. I think the reason it's sort of become a phenomenon, if you will, like a trend. I hate to use that word in like talking about something like this, but you know, we've seen the TikTok videos and the videos of people. Oh, I get to get an abortion, and look at these people getting an abortion. Isn't it fun? Like, I think the reason for that is I think what a lot of people tend to forget is that abortion's an industry, right? It's financially motivated. Like Planned Parenthood, it's a company, right? You pay them to kill your child, unfortunately. So what they have done is essentially monopolized a culture to be an advertising campaign for their company.
Right.
Look at abortion. Look how great abortion is. Go to Planned Parenthood, because Planned Parenthood, they don't only do abortions. They do, you know, all these medical procedures, and they've transformed the culture into what is an advertising campaign for them. And it's hurtful to see, like, you know, a whole generation of people poisoned by such a horrific, inexcusable thing, and that they've been convinced that it is women's rights.
Right. They convinced themselves that like it's helping the woman.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's just it's so difficult to see how many people get like roped into this lie, the lie that like, you know, you have to kill your child to be able to be one of us. You have to kill your child to like, you know, to have a point, like to have to be successful, you have to kill your child. And it's just disappointing to see that, you know, that's anti-motherhood, right?
Yeah,
like that
it definitely is. Yeah.
Absolute opposite of what it means to be a mother. And, you know, to kill your child is the polar opposite of the job of a mother. The job of a mother, to clarify, is to raise your child. And, you know, as Christians, we believe is to get them to heaven, right? To raise your child and to make sure that they're making the right decisions in life.
Yeah.
And, you know, there are going to be mistakes. They're going to stumble and fall, but it's like to kill your child is the, you know, antithesis of life. And
that's it, exactly.
Procreation.
And as you said, the successful factor, you know, you have to be successful. If you want to be successful, you have to get an abortion. That's you know, that I've seen that. There's a clip of I can't remember. I think it was Busy Phillips is the name of the comedian, and she's talking in front of a crowd in front of Planned Parenthood, and she's like, "I have my studio, and I have my office, and I have my career because I was allowed to kill my baby." Like I can't be the only one, or we can't be the only ones who see the inherent like moral, immoral or immorality of this situation.
Exactly.
And it's terrifying that the Planned Parenthood and people like them and the pro-abortion movement has sort of weaponized abortion. That it is it's women's rights, and it's also a way to attack people you disagree with.
Yep.
If you're a man, you can't get an opinion on abortion. I recently I was in someone messaged me on Instagram, and they were saying, you're a man, why do you get an opinion on abortion? I'm like, yeah, no, I'd be happy to have you on the show if you want to discuss with me. And they're like, oh, I'm not going on your show, I'm not doing that. And then they're like, why do you think you should have an opinion as a man? Like, because I'm allowed to hold whatever opinion I want.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But it's more than that. Like, it is a man's issue as well. I mean, it's the man's child, right? I mean,
yes, it is.
Very simply, it's the man's child. But also, it is the job of the man to ensure the safety of his fiance, wife, spouse, whatever, and their child, right? That's at bare minimum the job of a husband or of a fiance or a male partner or whatever.
Exactly.
And of course it's a men's issue. Men need a say in this issue. Like, we've all seen the videos of men. I was recently sent one there a while ago by a friend of a man who was absolutely distraught, like crying in the street because his girlfriend decided to get an abortion, and he had absolutely no say.
Right.
And that's a hard thing to deal with, to watch a man just absolutely crumble in emotion with like just the thought of someone being able to legally kill his child and get away with it.
Yeah.
And he has no say. And I think what was the state that introduced the bill to allow fathers to have a say in abortion?
I believe it was one of them. It was definitely one of them down south, because I know.
Yes, it was. Yeah. They tend to be a lot more liberal.
I believe it's like I believe Alabama would do something like that. Otherwise, Mississippi or Georgia.
Oh, it could be either of those. I think no, it's not Illinois. No, it's definitely not Illinois.
Yeah, not Illinois. No,
it's too blue. It's one of them anyway. But that was a big step forward in the fight for life, as it were. Another thing I think that's causing the cultural shift towards the loving and praising of abortion is sort of late wave feminism, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about like actual feminism. I don't call myself a feminist because of late wave feminists, right? They sort of poison the term. But I'm not talking early. I'm not talking like early suffragette, actual feminists. I'm talking about these people who have seeked to remove the magnificence of childbirth and motherhood, and have made abortion and made sort of like hookup culture and one night stand culture. That's definitely been like a massive contributing factor to abortion. I've seen a post on, it was, I can't remember the name of the page. I think I just found on like #pro-life or whatever, and it was a sign on a street, and it just said pro-life, pro-woman, pro-feminism, and then pro, I don't know if I can say the word, it's HOE. I'll leave it at that, right?
Right.
But
yeah.
And that sort of that intrigued me, because that sort of mentality, that pro sleeping around mentality, has caused the uprising in abortion, has caused the normalization in abortion. So you can't be both. You can't be pro-life but also approve of this sort of sleeping around culture, this hookup culture, because that has been a direct contribution to the normalization of abortion.
Exactly. And it's like, when we have all these people sleeping around and they're like facing the consequences of their actions, like this is what's happening, and we talked about it in the episode with Juan Pablo, the shattering of the community of persons. When this happens, and when like you said, a trend is set. This is the way that we do things. This is the way that things go. It's like you can't have both. It's ruining our culture, and it's just it's tearing us apart from the inside out, because truly people are like thinking that this is correct and engaging in it.
And on that note, I seen, I can't even remember what I was going to say now. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. I'm after completely blanking there.
Yeah.
Sorry, what were you saying there a second ago?
Yeah. So, well, also I did find out that it was Tennessee. Tennessee passed the bill
Tennessee,
that fathers would get a veto on an abortion.
I covered that and everything. I couldn't remember.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, with the sort of the sleeping around and people. Another argument they use quite a lot is, oh, I didn't consent to give birth to this child. No, you did. When you consented to sex, you consented to have a child, right?
Right.
It's not a separate thing. Like we've all
No.
gone through what, first grade biology or whatever the grade is in the States. But yeah, I think the main things of why abortion has become so normal is definitely sort of government or organizations like Planned Parenthood have used the culture as a mechanism for promoting their own business, and secondly, it's sort of the hookup culture and the sort of repercussions from sort of late wave feminism, like third wave feminism, which sort of took away the praise of motherhood and sort of turned it into, oh no, women belong in the workplace over motherhood or whatever like that. And that's definitely contributed to
for sure
to the uprising and normalization of it, at least.
Right. And that's like to say, that goes to the same point, to say that you can't be successful if you have a child, because how can, if women belong in the workplace, then what are they going to do with the child they have at home? Right.
Yeah.
Like, so I guess that's another thing that they've got going, because they're like, well, you have to, give the child good living circumstances. That's another argument for abortion. Like, if they're not going to have good living circumstances, then it's okay to kill them. Right. Absolutely not. So why are you going to, it's funny to see how they convince women, and they convince themselves, that to be successful, to be a true feminist, you shouldn't have children, right?
Yeah,
you should kill your child.
It's strange.
Perverted.
Yeah.
It's nasty.
It is definitely perverted, but yeah. Again, it goes down to sort of people who have been not paid off, but certainly sort of encouraged by organizations like Planned Parenthood. Like Busy Phillips. I can't remember the actress. I seen her. What was her name? I can't remember her name, but she was saying, Lena Dunn was her name. She was saying, oh, I haven't had an abortion yet, but I definitely would go back and have one if I could.
Well, imagine your child hearing that.
Yeah, imagine. Could you imagine? It's basically, you're my child, but if I could, I'd go back and kill you. But that's another sort of counter argument to sort of the pro-choice argument. Why can't she kill the child? I mean, she can kill it in the womb. Why can't she just kill it now? She doesn't want him, clearly.
Right, exactly.
So
what's to stop you?
Yeah, exactly. That's it. That's why we have said human life has value, because we're not allowed to just kill someone in the street, because their life is equally as valuable as mine or as yours or anyone else. But yeah, it has been strange to see abortion become, as I said, like a rite of passage for the ultra progressives or whatever you want to call them. And another thing that they say a lot is, oh, well, if abortion was made illegal, then there'd be so much more abortions in the country. Well, that's not true. I mean, I can use my own country as a case study for that. I know Maria wrote an amazing article about this on Grey Life, and you should definitely check that out. Abortions went up thousands. Went up from 2,000 to well over 4,000, I think, a year. So, that's just completely untrue.
Exactly. It's absolutely frightening to see how people are lying and they're getting away with it. And people are killing their children and they're getting away with it, because it's it's been normalized.
Yeah.
And so I kind of want to look at like how these marketing schemes, I talked about this in the episode that just came out on March 4th with Gianna about slavery, and how all these different arguments for, slavery, for the Holocaust, they're all used in the abortion argument.
Yeah,
it's not a human being.
I had an episode recap on that as well, where I talked, while slavery and the the Holocaust are in their own sort of category of just complete atrocities. Okay, they're like you can't really compare much to the Holocaust, but that's exactly it. It's not a human, so we can kill it. Oh, it doesn't have value. It can't feel pain. You know,
Right.
they take away its validity, its personhood, in order to make it easier to kill, or to convince themselves it's easier to kill.
Exactly. And you see this with not only lying, but also with, it's like they make it seem like such a dandy thing. Let's go down to Planned Parenthood and kill my child. Like,
Yep.
it's have you seen the videos that it's like, I think Planned Parenthood actually released a video about what having an abortion is like the procedure that you go through, like the waiting room.
Yes, I've
and all
seen
that
them
stuff.
before. Yeah.
It's sickening. They have like this happy music playing behind it. And, I think that Michael Knowles from the Daily Wire actually reacted to it. And like with movies that are coming out, especially on HBO, they came out with a movie called Unpregnant, and it's just abortion advertisement. It's so disgusting to see this mainstream, but like, Unplanned, it gets an R rating. It gets, not shown in many theaters. And, it's talked about being like, it was funny because, a 16-year-old girl can have an abortion without her parents' permission, but you can't be a 16-year-old girl to go see this movie without your parents' permission because it's R-rated.
It's odd, isn't it? I once actually heard someone call I think Rotten Tomatoes, someone called Unplanned a provocateur movie, which sort of made me giggle a bit. But
yeah.
There's another movie similar to Unplanned. Well, it's not similar. Sorry, it's the exact opposite of Unplanned, from HBO Max. I think I can't remember the name off my head, but it's a comedy, right? I think
that's
hilarious.
Unpregnant. I think it's Unpregnant. The one
that's
I was just talking about.
Yeah. Sorry, but they make like it's look, we're going down to kill our child. They cross state boundaries to go kill their child.
It's a road trip movie.
It is a road trip movie about killing your child, which is just it's horrendous, right? But that's another thing as well. The sort of, you can get an abortion without your mother's permission. I don't think they realize that is a very, very common trick by child sex traffickers.
Yeah, it is. Who live action has released videos like that.
Yeah, who force underage children who are being sex trafficked to have an abortion, and they don't need their parents' permission. They don't need any of that.
Nope.
And they can. I hate to say it, but they're just sort of reused again, as it were, quite horribly. But that's how they imagine it, I suppose.
Yeah, and like if you look at the ignorance that people are showing to this, like it's almost funny to see how it's like the Cuomo stuff, right? Like
yes, yeah.
There's all this evidence of stuff going on, but people don't want to acknowledge it. So I just want to see the actual horrible thing happen. I don't want to see a horrible thing happen, but to see the thing that's going to wake people up to the fact that abortion is the worst thing that a woman could do to her child. When is it going to happen?
But yeah, that goes back to the sort of the Dr. Levatino speech they made in front of Congress. But I seen a clip or a video by ASAP Science. It's some sort of educational science channel, and the video was what exactly happened in an abortion. And they make it seem like it is the easiest, most standard medical procedure ever. You just go in, a suction catheter is introduced, and the specimen is extracted and, ended, basically. And they make it seem like the simplest, most dandy, acceptable thing that you could ever wish for. It's just simple, in and out. The specimen is dead, and you go.
Yeah, it's just, well, not dead. It's just gone. It's just
gone.
It's just gone. They won't tell
you. Well, it was never alive to them. It was never alive to them. So
it's terrible.
Yeah, it is. It's scary, quite frankly. It's really scary.
And also with the definitions of words being skewed crazy. We see this with like all the gender stuff, the gender versus sex stuff. Our definitions of what is a man and what is a woman and what is a child, what is a human, they're being challenged and they're being torn out of our culture. Like, how can anybody speak to each other? It's like we're all speaking a different language.
Yeah, it's insane. It's like one like, you know, 1 second the dictionary definition matters, the other time it doesn't matter. It's just completely arbitrary. You can make up
Right.
the meaning if you want. It's how you interpret the language. But of course, you know, that's just simply not it. A human life is a human life, right? No matter what stage of development it's at. And I can't remember the name. It's a pro-abortion philosopher, Richard something, and he openly acknowledges that it is a human life.
Right.
But I don't know how these people, like, it takes some serious mental gymnastics in order to, you know, convince yourself that this isn't a child. Because all the biological evidence, right, put morals, put religion aside, the scientific evidence shows us that it is a human life. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not a what do they call it, a clump of cells. By the way, we're all technically clumps of cells. If you want to boil it down to that. Or what's the other thing? It's a parasite, which, by the way, if they actually knew the first thing about biology, they'd know a parasite has to be a different species to its host. But all these things to dehumanize the child, and it's not to convince other people, right? It's to convince themselves first and foremost. Right. It's to convince themselves that what they're doing isn't an evil act. When I don't like to call the pro-abortion side evil. I don't like to call, you know, people who disagree with me evil, because I don't think it really solves anything or gets us anywhere. But I just cannot deal with people who say there's nothing wrong with abortion, or just defend it like it is something that is just the finest thing that you can possibly do. You know, it's a rite of passage. It's a great thing to do. If you have a weekend free, go get an abortion. Right? That's how it's treated.
It's sickening. It's like the easiest thing ever. And so moving into the argument standpoint here, you said you were going to argue pro-choice. So this is the first. This is actually the first episode. This is the first episode where I'm going to be arguing from the pro-life side. So we'll see how this goes. So
yes, we will.
Yes, let loose. What I mean, like, bring something up that I'm going to debate against.
Well, don't you think that the normalization and encouragement of abortion is good for controlling populations? I mean, we're overpopulated, so I mean, why don't we just abort some children, and then, you know, we can free up some space, free up some resources, and have, you know, more to go around.
I mean, if you really look at it, like, we're not overpopulated. There's plenty of space in the world, despite what what other people tell you. We're not overpopulated. And the fact that even if we are overpopulated, like you say, if that's a true fact, it does not give us the right to kill the future generations. You know, our life it's a cycle. When people are born, they're young and they live up until they're old and they die. And so we cannot take it upon ourselves to kill them, whether they're old or they're young. You know, this is a cycle of life, and I think that we should let God's plan happen naturally.
Yeah, but what if, okay, well, let's just say that the mother going through this is going to have to put up with it, you know, she's going to go through poverty and single motherhood, and she's not going to be able to raise her child right.
Well, look, I don't know if you've heard, but like, there are a lot of things like pregnancy centers. There are pregnancy centers, there's donation centers, and there are people who are willing to help you. So I know that childbirth is very hard to, you know, it's a very painful process. But if you, like, there are parents who are infertile, they can't have children of their own. They're more than happy to adopt your child. And, you know, there are plenty of pregnancy centers you can go to get help, and they'll help you get back on your feet.
Yeah, but, you know, what if you just can't, you physically cannot mentally muster the ability to give birth to the child?
I don't think that's a good excuse. If it's not going to harm your life, I don't really think that's a good excuse to kill another life if it's uncomfortable for you. Look, I don't like my younger siblings. My younger siblings are annoying, but it doesn't mean that I have the right to kill them. I can't physically muster to be around them, but like...
Okay, but like, don't you think that, like, what if the child is going to grow up with a condition where they're going to have to, you know, they're going to die by the age of 6, let's say?
Don't you think that everyone, no matter how small, like Dr. Seuss says, a person's a person no matter how small.
You can't mention Dr. Seuss now. He's been cancelled.
Oh, sorry. Oh, you're right.
You're gonna have to stick to referencing Karl Marx and Mein Kampf.
Exactly. Well, I don't think that that's a valid excuse. If they're going to have these, complications, they still have a right to life, because there's always a chance that, there's miracles happen, and even if you think, like, even if studies show in the womb right now that, this child is going to have Down syndrome, it's not always 100% sure that they're going to have Down syndrome. Like, there are ways to tell that, but
don't you think that we as white males should be excluded from this conversation because we don't have a uterus, right?
I mean, no. Look, I was in the womb once, so I have a ability to talk for somebody else who was in the womb. I have that experience. I don't have a uterus, but I was in a womb. I was in the womb, and I was given birth to. And I think that, it just makes me even more privileged to be able to live this life, and for somebody else to not be able to. So, let's not make me more privileged, and let's let other people live.
You have no idea the mental gymnastics I'm trying to come up with arguments here. But don't you think it's the woman's body and the woman's choice or whatever?
Well, actually, if you look at it, from the moment of conception, there's a separate set of DNA. If the child is a boy, does that mean that the mother has a penis? I don't think so. I mean, nowadays, maybe she does. But I don't think that in this situation, the mother is, I don't think that in this situation that the baby is the same as the mother. It's completely separate, actually.
Right. But she hasn't consented to, what if she's raped?
That's a very difficult argument, and I think that even it's a terrible thing, and there's no real way to come back from that. Like, it's going to traumatize you, but I don't think that it's anything compared to the trauma. Like, it's not a helpful way. Abortion is not a helpful way to rid yourself of that trauma that rape will bring you. I don't think that you could justify killing your child because you were raped. I think that not only is that going to bring you more trauma, but you're killing a human child, and so I don't think it's not justified that you don't have to keep the child. You can adopt. You can put it up for adoption. You can I know that the foster care system is not the most ideal place for it to be, but it's better than being dead.
And that's a fair point. But what if you don't consider it a child? I mean, technically, isn't it not a child until it's born?
Well, I mean, if you want to say that, let's look at, like, what's the difference between it being born and it being, inside the womb? What is it? A couple inches? I mean, that doesn't. It's not a very sound argument.
No, it isn't. Okay, but what if it's, say, like, the first trimester? Why not?
Well, at that point,
it can't feel pain or anything.
Actually, by 20 weeks, the child can feel pain.
Okay, well, let's say pre-20 weeks.
Pre-20 weeks. Let's say, the baby has a heartbeat. That baby has a heartbeat, and that baby, in pre-20 weeks, let's say it's 19 weeks. In one more week, it will be able to feel pain. And does that give us the right to be able to kill it?
Okay, but it doesn't have a personhood. It doesn't have lived experience or consciousness.
I want to ask you this question. When a plant is still a seed, does that make it any less of a plant? Is that seed still alive? Is that little sapling of a little oak tree? It might not look like an oak tree right now, but give it maybe 1 week and it'll look like a sapling.
Yeah, but what? But you can't compare a tree to a baby, or sorry, a fetus. I meant to say fetus.
I guess so, but I mean, I'm just trying to show you that, even though it might not look the same or might not have a personhood, or lived experience, does that mean that we get to take away the fact that they will have lived experience, say in a couple months?
Yes, because well, Okay, but why not from like the moment of conception? Why not just like the morning after pill or something like that?
Well, I mean, I already brought this up. We got the DNA. It's completely different.
But DNA doesn't exactly equal value or humanhood, right? My spit has DNA, but it doesn't make it particularly valuable.
No, I guess not. But I mean, this is still a human person. It might not look the same. And, to quote my favorite canceled person, Theodore Geisel, aka Dr. Seuss, a person is a person, no matter how small. And, if you look at your argument right now, a slave is only 3/5 of a person. At least that's what they told you, right? But I mean, look here, this is a child. And even though it might not look like one, or it might not have the lived experience of one, that doesn't give us the right to treat it any differently than any other human being. They still reserve the dignity that every human being deserves.
But like, isn't it just a parasite? Isn't it just feeding off the mother?
Also, actually, for it to be a parasite, it would have to be a different species.
You got me, yeah.
Well, that was really good. That was a really good argument section.
Thank you. Yeah, I tried my best, but it was near impossible. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's crazy. I feel like sometimes when I'm doing it on other episodes, there's like that. There's a disconnect in between each one. Like there's something that I have to look over that they said.
Yeah.
Like I just have to forget that they said it and then go on to a different point. It's almost like you're just ignoring, selectively hearing.
Yeah. I was completely ignoring the argument because I genuinely couldn't refute them. Like, obviously, I have the sort of the bias of being pro-life, but I genuinely couldn't come up with any constructive argument. I was trying my best, and it was just mental gymnastics after mental gymnastics.
It's crazy.
Just leapfrogging from talking point to talking point, literally.
Well, Sam, I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show. This is a good topic, and I think that if we can see how they've normalized it with advertisement and stuff like that, let's see how the pro-life movement can bounce back with its own advertisement, like with Great Life, like what we're doing here on our separate shows. Like this is the kind of stuff that we need. Teens speaking out about what's right, speaking out about the truth.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
I hope to have you on the show sometime again.
I'll definitely be up for it.
Yeah. For now, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right. Have a great week.
You too.